Welcome back to Everything Self-Defense, where we talk about everything tactical, everything practical, and of course, everything self-defense. I'm your host, Nik Farooqui from Ballistic Fighting Methods and StreetSafe101.com. And before we begin, I want to send my thoughts and prayers not only to the friends and family who suffered in the Boston Marathon bombing, but also in West Texas, where there was an explosion the same day that wiped out a good portion of the town and killed over a dozen people. I'm deeply sorry for your loss, and I hope that you know that the country stands behind you. On today's episode, we're talking about how not to get into a fight. Now, here's an extremely important topic. Many people talk about verbal de-escalation tactics, and although we may all have some different approaches to this matter, it's pretty fair to say that the fundamentals are accepted by everyone. It's rare to see anyone, even in the martial arts instructors, to teach you what is necessary about verbal de-escalation. In my opinion, it's an art completely on its own. The people I like to discuss this with have always been psychologists, FBI profilers or hostage negotiators, and believe it or not, bouncers. Interesting blend of sources. Here's why I picked them. Psychologists typically understand the way people react to certain behavior. FBI profilers or hostage negotiators have a very keen eye for the human behavior. And bouncers, well, bouncers are constantly talking people down, so they have an invaluable information and experience. I've been lucky that in my career, I've had the chance to spend time with all of the above. My law enforcement contracts have produced friendships with some pretty elite folks, and having run security for 8 years of my life, let me tell you that I've been exposed to a lot. I've seen everything under the sun, including having knives pulled on me, guns, bottles, pool cues, 3 to 4 attackers, gang fights, anything that you can imagine. I've seen and been involved with over 200 altercations at this point. Not that I know everything, but it's safe to say that I have some credible experience. All that being said, I realized that certain things always came true. And based on that, let me share with you my thoughts on verbal de-escalation. I look at almost every altercation in 4 basic stages. Pretty much every combative situation will somehow go through these particular stages. Preemptive, approach, assault, and post-attack. Preemptive is the stage that very few people will ever pick up on. This is where someone might single you out or start watching your behavior and planning their attack. Whether this is a bar fight over something stupid or a sexual assault or mugging, whatever. Forces are aligning against you before you even know it. The approach stage simply means that somebody is putting you in their proximity. Whether they announce their approach or not isn't a part of the topic today, but know that after someone decides to attack you, they will get closer to you in distance. Aside from projectile weapons and sniper work, if someone has poor intentions for you, they need to get close. In a different episode, we will talk about behaviors involved in this stage. It's a real eye-opener. The assault stage is exactly what it sounds like. It's the actual attack. Be it with or without a weapon, or a single attacker, or multiple attackers, verbal, physical, whatever. This basically is where the fecal matter hits the blades. Most self-defense training will help you deal with this particular stage. And the 4th and final stage is post-attack. Now, this is referring to the legal or medical ramifications, court cases, police investigations, medical needs, and such. All the craziness that deals with the aftermath of surviving an attack, or worse, not surviving an attack. Today's topic deals with a particular time that occurs between the approach and assault stages, assuming there's going to be one. There are times when it goes from 0 to kill instantly, but for the sake of our discussion today, we're dealing with that lower level of violence, but the kind that happens more often. Maybe a situation like a bar fight or an argument over a parking spot or road rage. You've seen it. This kind of stuff is surrounding us daily. Low level as it may be, do the wrong things and it can very quickly escalate into something much worse. Hence why we're talking about verbal de-escalation today. So what should you do when someone is barking in your face and saliva's ricocheting off your retina and the blood is boiling and the heart's thumping through your chest and you get that acute tunnel vision? How do you deal with it and ensure that we aren't harmed, arrested, or sent to the hospital? Well, let me walk you through this. And if you've noticed in the past, I like to analytically break down everything to simple, expressible terms. And there's nothing different here. So here we go. I break verbal de-escalation down to a 4-step program. And if you follow these, you'll be better off. Even if you don't agree with some of the detail work, I'm pretty sure you'll understand and agree with the big picture. The first stage of verbal de-escalation is distance. Distance is the key element that's going to set you up for success for your defenses. Don't match egos and be all chest to chest. Take a step or two back immediately. You need to be able to see everything. Do they have a weapon? Are there exits? Do they have buddies? Are there cops in the area? Potential weapons for my use? Are there environmental hazards like wet floors, ice, tables, potholes? If you don't get distance right away, you'll probably get struck. In my years in security or even my independent study of prison culture, it was almost a guarantee that if the victim doesn't back up, they get hit and they get hit hard, sometimes even with a bottle or rock or whatever. So make sure that you back up a couple steps calmly and smoothly. Start scanning the area immediately, but not obviously. Open up the field of vision and get mobile. Start moving around. Being mobile will make them chase you around a little bit. But if they continue their approach, then you know what they want. If they take a couple steps and then stop moving, you're pretty much in the clear. The second stage is posture. Posture refers to the way you position your body. The objective here is to be guarded but not combative. Be prepared to offend, defend, evade, or whatever you may have to do. When you step back in the distance stage, take your preferred combative lead and have an athletic base, meaning if you're a right side forward person, or if you're a left side person, then make sure that you're taking that base. Put your hands up, palm out, forearms in, elbows bent. Now this is a very non-threatening pose, but instantly goes into fight mode if you need it. Don't close your fists. Nothing says that you want to fight more than showing closed fists. Keep the hands open and palm out. Be as least threatening with your body language as you can be. Keep your arms in far enough to protect your head, but not so tight that you lose your visual ability. I call this position the false guard, meaning it's meant to protect me from attack, but doesn't really look like I'm ready to fight. And now we're into stage 3, my favorite. Stage 3 is response. Response simply means that you have to reply and acknowledge this attack somehow. And typically you want to do so verbally. Now this is where most people get into trouble. They match anger with anger, trying to prove that they're not intimidated. But what they do in reality is challenge the attacker, which simply escalates the situation. Here's how to respond. First and foremost, you need to have a calm tone. The pitch and volume of your voice does imply intention. So don't scream, but don't be afraid to speak up. Be firm and assertive, but not forceful and aggressive. Avoid profanities. Attackers will use any opportunity they can to twist what you say around. So avoid harsh words that can be taken the wrong way. Acknowledge whatever they're saying and repeat it back to them. Here's an example, and mind my language. They say, "Hey motherfucker, that's my girlfriend you're talking to." You should respond with, "That's your girlfriend?" And by reaffirming their speech, you not only show that you're attentive to their language, but also causes a delay in their thought process, which ultimately buys you a fraction bit more time. Now, do not admit fault or apologize. Like any other bully, apologies or fault are seen as weakness, and the attacker may feel that they have you cornered and scared. What do you think a bully does when they have someone cornered and scared? They attack. Give your intentions clearly and concisely. Here's some examples. Hey man, I don't want to fight. It's cool. Or, hey, we don't have a problem. I don't want to go to jail over this shit. Or you can try the respectful approach. Hey man, I didn't know. I'm respecting you and not talking to you like that. Why are you talking to me that way? Remember that you're doing all of this while you're partly mobile. That doesn't mean you're running around the parking lot. It means you're just moving slowly and calmly. So you're trying to walk away, but you're not turning your back. That leads us into stage 4. Stage 4 is action. Action doesn't mean attack. It means that you're moving to your solution. If the situation simply will not de-escalate, then you need to be prepared for physical action. If it does begin to de-escalate, you'll continue on until you're in a safe distance. Then my suggestion is to go elsewhere. Don't be in the same establishment or area as the attacker, because it may reignite if they stew on it. And if it does not de-escalate, meaning the situation is getting worse, then you need to either escape, go hands-on, or find an equalizer or weapon. Now, all of this might sound simple enough, but often when I ask my clients and students to practice, I find that they don't always follow the rules. Most often, they forget about the distance part and end up getting socked in the head. Or they give a response that only adds fuel to the fire. The point is that even something as simple as this does require practice. Role-playing type training works wonders here. Set up a bunch of different scenarios, parking lot arguments, bar fights, whatever you can think of. Then have someone act as an aggressor and go through the steps. And tell them that they have options as well. They can be natural. Either the situation will de-escalate or it will escalate and they're going to swing on you. However, make sure that you are as realistic as possible. And I will also say this, you have to learn how to trust your instinct. Every situation, you're going to have to answer a question. The question is, do I think I can talk my way out of this, or is this too heated already? If you think that you can talk your way out, give it a shot. If you think that no matter what you do, this bulldog is going to keep coming, then you might need to go hands-on right away. In that case, I will say that there are advantages of being the first one to hit. Now, I know that we're taught the playground rules like, if he hits me first, then it's self-defense. So I'm going to let him hit me first. Do you know how dumb that is? You want somebody who's aggressive to crack you with their hardest hit. Then hope that you're still about your wits and that he or she is not continuing to hit you, and then offer a response? I don't think so. I know that if I tried to back away or verbally de-escalate the situation unsuccessfully, then I damn sure am not going to wait to get hit. He's already shown me his intentions by not listening and by chasing me down when I tried to back away. Game on. But that's just me. You might not feel comfortable with that, so again, trust your instinct and hope that it serves you right. So let's recap for a minute. The first stage was distance, right? Backing away. The second stage was posture, putting your body into a position where you can be offensive, defensive, evasive, whatever, but you're not looking like you're Mike Tyson with your hands up and ready to fight. The third stage was response, right? We want to be non-threatening with that. We want to be calm and firm at the same time and not show fear. And then the fourth stage was action, meaning we have to do something. And you should be planning that action from point one. As soon as you gain distance, you need to have your wits about you to start thinking about what you need to do in case. And now it's time for In This Corner. This is where we answer some questions sent to us by you. The first question is by Melanie in New York. Melanie says, Nick, I listened to your podcast on women's self-defense a couple weeks ago, and I was wondering what a female should do if they get tackled to the ground. My friend mentioned an art like Jujitsu. Would that be of any help to me? Thanks for the question, Melanie. Melanie, Jujitsu is a great place to start. By nature, Jujitsu is all about ground fighting, right? It covers the ground aspect of the game. And it's a great tool for learning how to transport yourself on the ground and getting comfortable being on the ground and having somebody possibly heavier than you laying on top of you and moving around. But here's my complaint. At the end of the day, it's still a sport. Why would you want to be looking for an armbar or a kimura when the attacker might be striking you or using a weapon or amidst a sexual assault? The other side is this. Rolling on the asphalt or gravel or broken glass or snow or dirt is not like rolling on a mat. And let me tell you a story about this exact point. I have an acquaintance named Charles. Charles is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I am not. Okay, my ground game is just enough to survive. My street grappling is a little bit different than my jiu-jitsu game, but for the most part, he'd mop me up all over the mats. Charles and I ended up in a heated debate. I told him jiu-jitsu was sport-based, and he said, no way, it's the best thing out there for self-defense. 90% of fights end up on the ground, he said. And I said, well, that's not really true, but okay, let me go with that. So after some back and forth banter, I asked Charles, I said, listen, I will roll with you anytime, any place. So you pick the time and day, and I will pick the place. And I'm going to tap you out. Mind you, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm not. He happily accepted my invite. So we met up at a local grocery store, which was halfway between his place and mine. And he got in my car and we started driving around. And I found a construction site and I pulled over and I got out of the car. And he says, what are you doing, taking a leak? And I said, no, man, we're going to roll. And his response was, I'm not going to roll here, man. I'm not getting all cut up. Case closed. I just tapped him out. I just submitted him. Because he is not ready to roll on the gravel or the dirt or any of these other things that the street has to offer. Now, the objective of being on the ground in a street scenario is always to get back to your feet. So you have to be willing to do whatever it takes. That means biting, eye gouging, pinching, striking to the groin or throat. One of my instructors named Paul Vunak introduced me to an art called Kina Muay Thai, which is solely based on biting, gouging, and pinching. When we used it with the Jiu-Jitsu positioning, it's probably one of the most violent things I've ever seen a human being do. So to answer your question, yes, Jiu-Jitsu can be of some help in getting you familiar with the ground, but you have to look beyond it, in my opinion. I'll also tell you this. One of my other instructors and mentors is a guy named Roy Harris. Roy Harris is a 5th degree black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. He's the highest ranked American in Jiu-Jitsu. He's the first American to ever receive a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. He's a member of the Masters Hall of Fame. He's traveling the world teaching his Harris-style Jiu-Jitsu. He's an icon in the game. He's literally changed the game. And I asked him in an interview how he feels about using his world-class jiu-jitsu in a street fight. You want to know what his answer was? I need to get back to my feet immediately. Now, there's something to think about. Melanie, I hope that helps. I appreciate the email. And keep looking for the right answer for you. So here's the second email. Gregory from St. Louis, Missouri says, Nick, I really enjoy your show. Sounds like you have some great experience. What martial art do you think is most applicable for real-world combat? Gregory, thanks for the email. In my opinion, I don't really think any martial art is better than another. Like Bruce Lee said, I no longer believe in styles because styles separate man. The idea is that any martial art is good as its practitioner. If you take a high-level karate practitioner and put him against a low-level boxer, the karate guy's going to win for sure. But if you take a high-level Jujitsu guy and put him against a newbie Krav Maga guy, Jujitsu will seem better. It's not about the art. It's about the application and the individual. Now, that does not mean some particular arts and blends are not better than others. They are. But you have to understand, each art has a particular range that they deal with, and they might be excellent at that range. So we feel like there's a great art for a great moment, right? Every particular moment has its own advantages and disadvantages, and you have to work with that. That being said, to me, I feel that Jeet Kune Do is the ultimate fighting art, and here's why I say that. After being exposed to over a dozen arts, 26 years I've spent in martial arts, 13 years teaching, I can honestly say that JKD is the only place where I learned things like multiple ranges, practical weaponry, and most of all, JKD did not teach me ABC technique versus XYZ attack. It taught me attributes, concepts like timing, distancing, line familiarization, flow, and awareness. And without these attributes, technique is useless. So in my book, JKD is the ultimate fighting art. Mind you that some of my instructors have taught this to Navy SEAL teams, DEA, FBI. A good part of my career goes by teaching federal air marshals or SWAT teams or drug enforcement agencies. So to me, again, JKD is the ultimate fighting art. That's it for this episode of Everything Self-Defense. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed the show. I would also like to thank David Lombardo from Safer USA and On Target Radio. If you guys like hearing gun talk, check out his show on Chicago's AM 560 WIND on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Central, or you could check out his podcast at On Target Radio. I would also like to thank the Illinois State Rifle Association for their excellent work downstate in protecting our gun rights. Make sure that you show your support for the ISRA. On the next episode, we'll be talking about the martial life, what it's like to be a student, what it's like to be an instructor, and how has it affected our lives. Stay tuned for that. That's a very heartfelt show. In the meanwhile, you can check us out on Facebook at Street Safe 101 or online at www.streetsafe101.com. I'm your host, Nik Farooqui. Be well, be safe, and we'll see you on the next one.